regarding the gutting of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, I know we've heard all about it over and over. All different creators are talking about it in different ways, but I have a different angle that I want to go over. Justice John Roberts in 1982 argued against the recertification of the Voting Rights Act. Right, Voting Rights Act. He was a young man, young lawyer, and argued very hard against it being recertified. Okay. Why? My question is, why was he then confirmed to the United States Supreme Court if he's against the Constitution? If he's against equal justice under the law, equal rights, civil rights, why would he be confirmed to the Supreme Court of the United States? We really, really need to restructure the process of nominating and confirming Supreme Court justices. They lie in their confirmation hearings, and then when there's proof that they lied, they're already on the court, and no one does anything about it. So there needs to be consequences for that. So moving forward, let me just check my notes. Moving forward, of course, he lost that battle, as we know. In 2013, there's a case called Shelby County versus Eric Holder, who was the Attorney General of the United States under the Obama administration at that time, where they basically, the Supreme Court decided that racism ended because we had a black president, and that we no longer needed the pre-clearance. Pre-clearance was the section 5, and then part of section 4 was taken out, which determined which states had to follow the pre-clearance. So pre-clearance were southern states that had a history of racial discrimination, ending people's lives for trying to vote. I'm pulling up the map to show you the states that were subject to the pre-clearance. You see where they are? So basically, they had to have pre-clearance before an independent body would judge any changes they wanted to make to voter ID laws, any processes involving voting. They wanted to make sure they weren't reinstituting the grandfather clause or literacy tests or how many beans are in this jar tests. So that was pre-clearance. So basically, in 2013, they gutted that and gutted the selection process of which states that were required to have pre-clearance. So his justification and his decision, John Roberts said, we progressed against racism, racism. And don't worry, Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is permanent and will always be in place to protect voting rights. Okay. And then we move on to 2026, the Calais decision, where he guts Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. So it has been his lifelong journey to disenfranchise non-white voters, specifically black voters. And it looks like he has worked for decades to chip away and chisel away the rights in the Voting Rights Act to a point where Section 2 is there, but it's almost impossible to prove because you have to prove that they had the intent to disenfranchise groups because of their race. And in this time of partisanship, it's kind of hard to prove that because most black people are Democrats, most Hispanic people are Democrats. So they can make these maps and say, no, we're just gerrymandering out Democrats, which in districts that are concentrated with black people or Hispanic people, that it's racism when they cut out all their districts or chop them up so crazily that they can never get enough votes to elect representatives that would represent their interests and work hard to work for the people in their districts to make sure that things are taken care of and their needs are met. So racism, but how do you prove intent when they can just claim, oh, we're just gerrymandering Democrats? I think that gerrymandering should be outlawed. I mean, there should be some computer, some AI or something that just takes the map of a state and just makes districts, regardless of who's where and who's who. That way, it's fair, and then that should be etched in law. Only changed if they find some problem with it. But we should not have Democrats or Republicans going in and carving up states to carve out the other party from having representation in the state. That should not be. I'm not sure if that's a solution. If you have any solutions, let me know down in the comments. But it's crazy. Like, this has to stop. This has been a problem for forever, it seems. With one party chopping up a state. I just lost one of my lights. One party chopping up the state to make sure that they get more representatives in Congress, and then the other party chopping up another state to make sure they have more representatives in Congress. It should never be that a party that's in charge of state government can do that. That should be illegal. I'm not sure why it's legal. But in any case, we need Section 5, Section 4, Section 2. We need the full Voting Rights Act restored. There's a John Lewis Voting Rights Act that's been sitting around in the Congress for years now. John Lewis is, we know who he is. He was a congressman. He marched with Martin Luther King. He was beaten to almost death crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge back in the 60s with Dr. King. And when he passed away, they were working really, really hard to get that passed. But of course, nothing gets done in Congress. I mean, how many days have they worked in the last year? Ridiculous. Anyway, I think that should be illegal. I think there should be some nonpartisan process, group, picking districts, and let it be as it may. I don't think this should be happening at all. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Please like, share, subscribe, and thanks for watching.